West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710.
It's 7 a.m. in the
KNUS.
Mile High City on this Friday, June 13th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710. KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. America's red, Colorado's blue. It all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where you're invited to be a part of the conversation. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Real quick, Bill, text message from Joan in Lakewood wanted me to update folks on the experience with Denver Police Department filing the report of the kick heard around the world.
Yes. Yeah, you went and talked to the boys in blue yesterday.
I did.
Yeah,
So,
how'd that go?
Tuesday, just to recap, Tuesday down at the anti-ICE protest and, interviewing people. And it's typically like what one of those protests is. And then just out of nowhere, kicked really hard in the back.
Yeah, and you can see this on video. You don't get to see the kick per se, but you do get to see Jeff's physical reaction. It's obvious that he has just been assaulted from behind. So do check out his Twitter account, because I refuse to X. His Twitter account, Jeff at X.com.
Jeff Hunt. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Hunt. X, yeah.
And so
But you can see it.
We had that Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, we have a live broadcast. So I've got some work responsibilities. Drive home, and I think to myself, well, I'll just fill out the form online.
Yeah, that's easy.
Submit the video, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So go to DPD website. There, if it's an assault, you can't fill it out online. So I call the phone number, and they're like, "Oh, we'll send a police officer to you, or you can come in." I'm like, "You guys don't need to send a police officer.
No.
I live way out in the sticks."
Yeah.
So,
However, we have agreed that if Jeff was in like a tight-knit neighborhood in their cul-de-sac, you absolutely send the cop car, because you want to make the neighbors wonder what the hell's going on at the Hunt household. But since he's at the
Be the
Hunt
talk
ranch,
of the neighborhood.
he wouldn't be the talk. So there's not as much value to that. Yeah.
So after work yesterday, after the show, go down to the substation off of University I-25, and I recorded a video because this is not something I want to do.
No.
Generally, you can see, I think I'm a pretty forgiving person.
Yes, you are.
Right? Like, I don't...
You forgive me every day on the show, at the end of the show. Every day.
And, it's just... Like, I'm sitting there in the car going, I don't... Gosh, I'm going to kick off this whole machine, and now I'm connected to this guy forever.
Yeah.
And maybe just whatever. Like maybe I was in my mind. I was like, let's just go.
And it's so much easier to just let it go, because you don't have all the nebulous what's going to happen,
Right.
and the entanglements, and I'm going to have to do X, and there's going to be more responsibility. There's going to be more pulls on my time if they arrest the guy and they charge him, and I do have to get in the system. Yeah,
That's exactly right. That was all going through my head. But I'm thinking to myself, well, I want to continue to do this. One, because I love to be in the center of the action, man.
Yes,
like,
you're good at it.
It is like those Palestinian protesters. There's one video of me where they're like banging against windows, and I'm literally right next to them. I'm like,
Let's just watch this. Yeah,
let's be right in the middle of all the stuff. So long as people are safe, I don't get. And generally, I haven't had any type of issues.
No, you haven't.
Every once in a while, people get a little handsy, and you can tell they're trying to escalate. They'll kind of like bump up against you and be like, and you're like, whatever.
And you're like, you have any idea
away.
how many concerts and bars I've been in? I mean, that's just normal stuff.
You
Stop
know,
it.
someone's act a fool, and
Exactly.
and
It's like,
they're
cares?
getting a little handsy. So typically, I'll walk away. But this was so like violent in the kick that it was like, oh, all right. So
Obviously
I want to continue to be a part of this stuff, and I want other journalists and media personalities to feel safe going downtown too. And we saw some other news agencies that were down there. They had security with them. So I felt like it was really important to send a message that this is not acceptable behavior, whether it's to me, whether it's to Kyle Clark, whether it's to anybody. Journalists and media personalities have the right, and Chris Vanderveen, to his point, Channel 9, defended me.
Yeah.
You have the right to go out there and record. You're covering information. Now, you may not like my perspective on that, but that's not your choice in this country.
At all. No.
So we have the right to record. And in that video, I'm literally not talking to anybody.
No, you're just standing in the middle of the crowd.
Filming
You're not
myself.
Yeah, you're not trying to talk to anybody.
Camera.
You're not saying, "Hey, why aren't you answering my question?" or "Where are you going?" or nothing. You are just standing there.
Yeah.
That's the part that makes this the most shocking. Is it's not even a singular interaction. It's just standing in the middle of the crowd.
It's a sucker punch.
Yeah, and the dude behind you decides, that's a drop kick. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
Yep.
The process
and
inside
then
that dude's mind.
later in the video confesses that he did it because I make him mad.
Yes.
My content makes him mad.
And the best thing about it is he wasn't saying it to you. He was trying to explain himself to somebody else that he saw as an ally, which is brilliant. That is so good, because that is worth gold inside of that video, because it shows motive, it shows premeditation, and it shows admission. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah.
So went in, filled out the form. Cop was nice. His questions were just to make sure it was a legitimate case. Because you got to imagine people show up and they're like, "My neighbor mows his lawn at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I want to file a police." And you're like, "Okay."
Yeah. Or someone has their little protest sign and they're putting it in someone's face as you're trying to walk into the grocery store, and someone pushes it out of the way and you're like, "You've assaulted my sign." Oh my God, my poor sign. Yeah, we need to get those calls.
His
Absolutely.
questions were around location, timing, size of the injury, and kind of like severity of the injury was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then, could I identify him? That was another important part. And I'm like,
oddly they ask.
I actually have a picture. Here he is.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I've already done most of your work.
So detailed out the situation, written, sat there, filled out the report, and then they sent me a text message where you upload all the footage related to the incident. So we'll see.
That's a lot. That's good.
It's all out there now. And I said this on the video. I'll say it again. Thank you to everybody that we believe helped identify who this guy is.
Yes, big Jeff and Bill high five for all of the internet sleuths that stepped up immediately, okay? I know that I'm going to piss some of you off out there and you dislike me, but I respect the hell out of you to coming to my partner's assistance when he needed it. Y'all immediately jumped on the interwebs and typed into the Google boxes and tracked this MFer down. Thank you. It was incredible how quickly each and every one of you worked on this and how thorough you were. I am incredibly impressed. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you did for my partner. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get this guy.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. All right, so we'll keep you updated. We've got a lot to talk about now this hour. We'll get into Israel, Iran, what's going to happen, what's next. How far do you think this should go? Is this a sign of Donald Trump's weakness that Israel seems to be acting unilaterally? Should the United States support Israel in its efforts to confront and destroy the Iranian nuclear regime?
And when Iran responds, if they do respond, do they respond only to Israeli targets, or are U.S. targets included? That's
and does this open the door?
Question.
I mean, we already know that they want to attack the United States. Does this now give them the green light to do so? And what is that going to look like?
Yeah, so many questions. Yeah, what's going to happen here? How do we respond? How are they going to respond? And one of the other things, and I know Joshua Sharp is coming up the next hour, not this hour, but next, and his analysis is going to be fantastic from the Independence Institute. One of the things that I may want to talk to Joshua about is how much of a miscalculation did Iran make in their backing of the Hamas attack against Israel? How much of a strategic mistake did they make? Because none of this, I believe, happens if they hadn't supported the Hamas attack on Israel. How much of a hornet's nest did they open up? And are they reaping the whirlwind of their proxy war? This is going to be interesting.
All right, now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. Happy Friday. It's 59 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Israeli military claiming that Iran's nuclear program is reaching the point of no return. On Thursday, Israel launched what it called a preemptive strike against military and nuclear sites in Iran.
We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000 of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now just imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
And a few minutes ago, DJT on Truth Social said 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is day 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get there. Now they have perhaps a second chance. A federal appeals court is allowing 47 to keep control of California's National Guard. This after a federal judge, you may remember, on Thursday issued a ruling that halted the administration's deployment of military troops in L.A. They said he didn't have the authority to nationalize California's National Guard. Trump said, "Thank you for the decision." Denver police say they are ready and prepared and aware of the No Kings protest scheduled for tomorrow from noon to 4 at the Capitol. They say they're ready to go. California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla. Okay, he introduces himself. No one knows who he is. He crashed a Kristi Noem press conference Thursday, created a potentially dangerous situation, interrupts her after storming into the room, pushing back against the detail, creating the theater, and the drama. He was cuffed in the hallway outside and had a press conference, all planned afterward, but he's a horrible actor.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Yeah, that's all it was. A senator with a question. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. And Kristi Noem met with him afterward without that. They didn't have handcuffs on him. And she met with him for 15 minutes and talked to him. And she said, hey, I would have talked to him if he just would have said, hey, I need to talk to you.
Right.
And so he had to go through all that. No, he didn't have to go through all that.
Just a senator with a question. And a bank robbery is just a somebody on financial hard times.
Yes, exactly. Raising money the hard way. You got to go in there. I mean, you got to really prepare yourself for that mentally, I would think. So after that, you know, as predicted, the Dems come out with their fake outrage. But, you know, one of our great callers, Brian, he hit the nail on the head again with Jeff and Billy about 30 minutes ago.
Democrats are the escalators. The left are the escalators. It's shown time and time again. And then we get, you know, the conservatives or the right gets criticized for the response to the escalators.
Yes! Free pancakes for Brian next time. Air India confirms at least 241 people died after that Boeing 787 bound for London went down just after takeoff. But an absolute miracle. One passenger survived. He's 40 years old, a man, and the video on X was incredible of him walking to the ambulance. The plane crashed into the residential quarters of a doctor's college near the airport. There were so many great moments on Capitol Hill Thursday. I mean, it's hard to follow all this. Here's one of them. Texas Brandon Gill grilling Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Do you think men should be allowed in women's restrooms?
I'm not sure why this has come to this issue.
You
It has
tweeted
nothing
that
to do
as
with
a
immigration.
protest against President Trump, everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today. Have you ever used the women's restroom?
Not that I can recall ever, sir. No.
You wanted everybody else to do it, but you didn't?
Sir, I'm not sure why we're on a topic that has
I'm
nothing
asking
to do
you,
with
you're
today's hearing.
advocating for men to use women's restrooms, but you didn't do it?
I do not advocate that, no.
Well, actually, you did. You said everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today.
I can tell you that you are
Do you regret
politicizing
saying
this
this?
in a way that what we ought to be focusing on is
Do you
the
regret
failure of the federal
encouraging men to
government
use women's restrooms?
and the Congress to deal with immigration reform.
Do you regret encouraging men to use women's restrooms?
Again, you're taking us on topics that have.
Did you ever
nothing to
consider
do
that
with
women don't
the
want you
subject
in their,
that you
in their
invited us here
bathrooms?
for?
God, so great. Don't stop. Keep the pressure on. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Edmonton comes back last night after being down 3-0. 3-0 in the first. That's like, I don't know, 4 touchdowns in the NFL. First period. They take a 4-3 lead in the third. They come back, tie it in the second at 3, and then they take a 4-3 lead in the third. It's almost the end of the game. Empty net. They pull the goalie. Florida does. And Florida ties it at 4 with 19 seconds to play. It goes to overtime.
Bouchard with it for the Oilers. Now Ekholm. Clock calls it. Cross-ice pass. Draisaitl towards the net. Score! Leon Draisaitl in overtime. The Edmonton Oilers tie the series. 2 games apiece.
Wow. Tomorrow night is Game 5. 56 in Superior, 57 in Lone Tree, 59 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. TGIF, Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Warm summer-like days and mild summer-like nights as we head on through the rest of the week and head into the weekend here in northern Colorado. Denver, the Front Range, will see highs in the 80s today and Friday with afternoon and evening scattered showers and thunderstorms. Overnight lows mid to upper 50s. Bit warmer for the weekend, upper 80s into the 90s. Lows mid to upper 50s, and the weekend will bring a continued chance of hit or miss late day scattered showers and storms. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Operation Rising Lion. Israel launched a significant military operation targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, military sites, and key personnel starting early Friday morning, June 13th. The Israel Defense Forces conducted preemptive airstrikes dubbed Operation Rising Lion, involving over 200 fighter jets. Whoa! Could you imagine living in Iran, listening to that come over? I hear sometimes they fly over us, and you can hear it. 200 of them dropping more than 330 munitions on over 100 targets. The strike focused on Iran's main nuclear enrichment facilities at Natanz, nuclear scientists and ballistic missile programs, air defense systems, and radar installations. Bill, this is a really big escalation. I don't think people understand how big.
Yeah, this is huge.
I mean,
yeah,
200 fighter jets, 330 munitions, over 100 targets. Israel confirmed the deaths of senior Iranian military officials, including the chief of staff of the Iranian Armed Forces and the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, General it looks like Salami. Salami.
Yeah.
General Salami, along with 6 nuclear scientists. The IDF also reported destroying dozens of radar and surface-to-air missile launchers. Bill, this seems to be the weakest moment I've ever seen the Iranian regime.
Yeah, in recent memory, yeah.
Following the decimation of some of the senior leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah, the weakening of those two entities. They're still active. There's still operations going on in Lebanon and Gaza. But, I mean, and then you go back to the pager thing, too, right? Where they were able to get the senior leadership of Hezbollah, somewhere near 5,000 pagers exploding against these guys. I don't think I've ever seen Israel at such a strong place and Iran at such a weak place. And yesterday, Bill, I raised the question, would the world miss the eradication of Iran's political and military leadership? I don't think that they would. And Israel seems to be taking advantage of this moment. Oh, my goodness. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a scary escalation. There's part of me that feels that, yeah, I understand the necessity behind it, but in this manner, in this way, because Iran is at probably its weakest point in decades. But we all know that bromide about a cornered, injured animal. That is when they are at their most dangerous, because they don't necessarily have anything to lose. And that is what I'm worried about in this situation, because Iran is going to have some sort of a response. I don't think it's going to be as overwhelming as they want it to be, but they're going to have to do something in order to save face inside of the Arab world. The other thing that is difficult in this is that I believe for all the idea of, we're going to expand the Abraham Accords and we're going to look more towards peace inside the Middle East, and we are getting Saudi Arabia closer and closer to at least normalization of public relationships with Israel. There are some ideas there that probably in the next 4 years, with some help from Trump, could get there. That could happen, but not while this is going on. Not while Israel is attacking another Arab nation inside of the Middle East. There's no way that Saudi Arabia can come to the table and say, yes, we are now going to openly normalize relationships with Israel. They can't.
Really?
There's no way.
Help me understand why they can't, because they're different Muslims, and I'm looking at, there's two different groups, right? There's the Sunni and there's the Shia.
Yeah.
Sunni make up Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAB, and then you have some of the weird ones like Syria. But it seems to me that the Sunni Muslims are the ones that go, all right, we can modernize. UAB, that type of thing. Then you get to Shia, and Shia are the ones that seem to want to...
Yeah, they're closer to being the fundamentalists.
Clock off.
Yeah. But here's the thing is...
suicide vest.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is that in America, I'm not certain that Protestants would be okay with attacks on the Catholic Church and restrictions on them because of the shared faith. And that's the problem, is the commonality is the core of the shared faith. And that's the issue.
Did you see the response, though? But didn't they fight each other? They fight each other a ton.
I know, but brothers fight each other a lot. But when someone else comes in and attacks the family, those brothers are dropping their issues and they're attacking the person that's assaulting the family. That's part of the issue here. Is this is not Saudi Arabia isn't a fan of Iran, but they are a heck of a lot closer to Iran and their shared faith than they are to Israel. Saudi Arabia is still not convinced that Israel really should exist there. They can modernize and accept them being there, but they're not going to be, better way is, I don't believe they're Zionists. And that's the issue.
Well, the Abraham Accords are coming together. It's growing in that direction because I think the Sunnis have rightly determined that, maybe it's good to be in a business working relationship with Israel, whereas the Shias are the extremists that want total Islamic domination of the world and are willing to use violence to get it. And I bring this up because here are the Shia countries: Iraq, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Lebanon. All right, so we wipe out Iran's senior leadership, who have been funding terrorist attacks for decades all throughout the world. I see a turning point taking place in the Middle East where countries that are Sunni are going to go, well, we may not fully embrace Israel. We're tired of all the problems that the Shia-led countries are bringing to the globe. And I think they're just going to kind of shrug as
they did
the United
say
States and Israel.
Released,
have you gotten responses from them?
Yeah, they released an official statement saying the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia expresses its strong condemnation and denunciation of the blatant Israel aggressions against the brotherly Islamic Republic of Iran. That brotherly is important there. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
But
as far as
they're
shared
going to
faith.
do anything.
But hang on. But what I'm saying is
Put out
shared
a
faith.
press
And then,
statement.
I know, I understand that. And then it says, which undermines the sovereignty and security and constitute a clear violation of international law and norms. And what I'm saying is that statement is a roadblock to normalizing relationships with Israel. I'm not saying that Saudi Arabia isn't happy that Iran is kind of cut off at the knees and isn't there. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about normalization of relationships with Israel. This becomes a roadblock because of the conflict. Even if Saudi Arabia thinks this is the best thing in the world to happen, because of their shared faith, they have to put out statements like this: the brotherly Islamic Republic of Iran. Even though they disagree. Yeah.
Let's go to the phone lines. Barney, Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, Jeff and Bill. And by the way, Jeff, when I heard that you got kicked, at first I thought maybe it was like a 72-year-old liberal grandmother with and then I thought, well, maybe it's a little tiny white dude with a man bun. But I would say this about your case. First off, it was assault with battery. I think that's a felony in Denver. And I would think that DA John Walsh, who's a class, him as a liberal. Just saying. Anyway, going to the Iran thing. Billy, you're wrong.
Yeah. In what way?
When I say this, okay, Iranian people are Persian. They're not Arabs. They are Muslim. And the brotherly is Muslim. You're correct about that.
That's fair. That is fair. You're right. You're right. They're Persian. They're not. Yeah, you're right. That is fair. I apologize.
And the
You're right.
Persians are still pissed off that the Arabs took letters out of their alphabet 1,000 years ago. I mean, some of the stuff they did. So the Saudis really don't like the Persians, and the Persians don't like the Saudis. The Arabs do not like Jews, and neither really you could say the Persians do. But if you really wanted to take care of look, take the mullahs, pick them up, and throw them down that well that they heard the voices from. That's how I thought Israel was going to take care of Iran. I mean, they need to take out these facilities, but I've always said, get rid of the mullahs and the supreme leader in Iran, and you get rid of the royal family, which is too late. We can't do that. But that would take care of a lot of the problems in the Middle East. That's a fact.
Question for you in this, Barney. And again, I got to give you credit. Thank you very much for straightening me out on the Persia and Arab thing. Thank you. I did conflate the two, and it was incorrect. I was thinking more based on religion rather than the idea of the ethnicity. And you're right, man. But thank you. I appreciate that, and I needed that correction. So thank you. Now,
Billy, I just love correcting you sometimes.
Dude, that's fine. Dude, it's fine. Here's the cool thing. Barney, wait, hang on for a second, man. Here's the cool thing is that unlike, in my opinion, unlike the vast majority of talk show hosts, I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it because
Buddy,
I want consistency, and I want this, man, and I appreciate that.
I love the fact that you have really thick skin. I don't like the fact that Rich White called you stupid. I think that guy's a clown. You don't walk around and now, if you want to call me stupid, go right ahead. 10th grade education, no high school diploma. Yes, you could call me stupid, but you can't call me dumb.
That's true.
You don't get anywhere by putting down somebody. And, talking about this Padilla guy, first off, can we say girly man? Is that okay?
That's okay, yes. That's okay on the show, absolutely.
So, yeah, and now I want to correct you, Billy.
Yeah.
One more time.
Please, yes.
Padilla walks in the room. Well, first off, it's the best video of, do you know who I am? Do you know? No, we don't know who you are. You're a clown. But let's change the scenario. Let's say that we have the last HSS secretary, Miss Levin, Adam Levin, whatever the hell his name was. Let's just say he's standing there in a room talking, and the congressman from Oklahoma comes barging in. Mullen. Do you know who Mullen is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know that he's an MMA or UFC guy?
Yeah, he was a fighter, yeah.
Do you realize that those agents that took down the Gurley man would not have taken Mullen down like that? So, and most of these guys that commit these, John Hinckley was not a tough guy.
No.
And let's just say that this Padilla guy, it's pretty clear looking at him. The guy sucked. I mean, we could call him the P word. We could call him a sissy. But he's a Gurley man. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, well,
and
the thing is, he's not, and that's the issue that I have with the handcuffs, is it's obvious from that situation that he's not a threat. In my opinion.
Yes and no, but you automatically get the credit. Okay, so going back to our Jeff and his failed presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, I remember seeing the failed candidate in Lakewood. And when we're in the audience, there's guys walking around. They're real clear that they're Secret Service. And then you see the guy with the hoodie. You know he's Secret Service. But so when we first got there, it was the Denver office that was there. When Romney came in, a whole new team came in. And these guys, there was no question. They were tough. They were not your typical run-of-the-mill, sissy Secret Service guy. Very tough. There was a guy there, I swear to God, the guy was 6'6", and I guarantee you he would snap anybody's neck in a heartbeat. So you can spot these guys, but most of the guys that commit these crimes, like your school shooters and that, or whoever you want to name, they're not macho big guys. Look at the guy that shot the guy in the back, the United Healthcare guy.
Yeah.
They're not macho men. And you don't get to decide when the guy comes barging in. You get laid out. And personally, I wouldn't have put handcuffs on. I just zip tied him, and I'd have tied him really tight.
Now,
but
Barney,
anyway,
now let's talk about let's talk about now, Barney. I want to use that you said right there, the idea of the macho response and how things are going to respond. And I want to bring the conversation a little bit back to Iran and Israel and the attack. What do you think the response from Iran is going to be? Iran has just been punched in the mush. Are they going to get up off the mat, and do they have to fight back, or do they stay on their knees? And then how is that viewed in the Arab world? What do you think?
Okay, for starters, the Iranian people are not with the mullahs anymore. The Iranian people are so close to being American. They're so fed up with this theocracy. They've had it. They don't like the supreme leader. They don't like Ahmadinejad, the old president who hated gays. They're not with the theocracy. So I think all you've got to do, I honestly think, walk into Iran, grab them mullahs, throw them down that well where they hear Muhammad talking to them. Every one of them, I don't know, there's 101 of them or something. Toss them down the well.
Okay, now Barney, I want to stop you there. Now we're talking regime change, and I do think that, and I appreciate you opening that door, because that's something I want to talk with Jeff and the listeners a little bit later about, is Israel trying to affect regime change. But what I'm asking you for, hang on, Barney, is how well did the last militaristic regime change go inside of the Middle East, and that would be Iraq? How functional is that as far as working?
It was a joke. Thank you, W. Thank you, George W. You know, John McPhee, the Delta guy, after Tora Bora, they told everybody stand down. And then, lo and behold, here comes some helicopters, and they fly them out. Look, it gave them 20 years to have a 20-year war. No, the regime change is a joke, but the Iranian people are not. They're fed up with the theocracy. So let them take care of it. Take out the mullahs. I don't know, throw off a couple of 100,000. Give them a chance to wipe them out. They will. The Iranian people are smart people. They're not. These are not going to be your, Iraq or the Iraq throw. Yes, Saddam was brutal. He was horrible. He was everything. But you weren't. It was to be expected. Same as Afghanistan.
Yeah, when you get it, culture
so,
matters a lot when you're dealing with regime changes, and I think the Persian culture in Iran is just different than what we saw in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Barney. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend, man.
Always fun to hear from you.
It's always good,
especially on a Friday.
Yes, and he was right. He did correct me. He was right, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I haven't even talked to you about this, but
what?
I love Barney so much. I think we need to come up with Barney T-shirts, because he's a truck driver, right? Isn't he a truck driver?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun to have Barney, just designed like really cool truck driver. Like I listen to the Jeff and Bill show.
We should think about that. Or do like
Isn't
at the
that
front
fun?
of a truck and put something at the front of a big rig.
Because I love the fact that our listeners are across the spectrum.
Yes.
You got politicians that listen to us, DAs, truck drivers, farmers, ranchers, people that are retired. I love it all. Dude, it's like the best part of this job is that we get the best people listening to the
I love
show.
the fact that if you have to pack a lunch, whatever you're doing, you're going to work and you're listening to this in the morning, you're my kind of people.
Love it. So I think like a cool Barney, because everybody loves when he calls in.
Oh,
that guy
absolutely.
could have his own show.
Yeah, he could.
I don't want to encourage him too much because I want him to keep calling into our show, but he's so entertaining.
He is. He's great.
He could
We'll
have
think about
Barney's
that.
podcast too. Dude, we should do like a whole separate. I'm thinking out loud. What if we did like a separate thing with Barney? That would be hilarious. All right. You're just fun, Barney. I love it when you
He's
call.
a lot of fun.
All right. We all know we live in a tough state with these weak on crime prosecutors and judges that are letting the bad guys out. If you're running a business and you got to deal with those people in the streets trying to break into your business all the time, you need a quality alarm system that can help you. We've done the research, the best in Colorado alarm detection systems, the highest level of service and expertise. They combine it all so you can save time by having one source for your cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems. ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same day or next day service upon request because downtime's not an option, and dedicated teams for camera access control and fire alarms. Over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology, preventing crime in real time. Trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools, their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com to schedule your appointment. adsalarm.com. Alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses. adsalarm.com. All right, we'll continue. Phone calls and texts are hot. What do you think is going to happen? What do you expect Iran to do in response? And is Israel finally getting rid of the Iranian regime? Do you support it? Or are we going to end up in another Iraqi boondoggle? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Gosh, lots to talk about here. Bill, you know I'm supportive of Israel.
Oh yes, yes.
And,
Me too. I'm a Zionist. I'm open with that.
I'm a
fine with that.
Zionist
Yep.
as well, and I believe that Jews are invaluable to this world.
Yes. And just to outline, just
build
in case,
good cultures. that type of thing.
Zionism is the belief that Israel should exist, that the Jews
Yes,
have
the right to create
to
that.
have that state. Yes.
All right. I'm not ready to commit U.S. troops to the defense of Israel.
Ooh, that's a surprise
I
to
have
me.
a hard time, and I do this because I have boys that are about military age or like real close to it, and I'm just so burnt on Afghanistan and Iraq and losing friends there. I'm okay doing the Ukraine thing. I'm okay sending the money. I'm okay sending the fighters, the drones, all that stuff. But do I think I want to engage in a land battle with Iran in order to defend Israel? U.S. troops in tanks, in foxholes. That one gets Air Force, yes. Drones, yes.
Yeah.
I saw the kind of Ukraine funding type of thing, yes. Our boys sitting in trenches in the desert trying to fight Iranians.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get there.
Well, here's the thing is that they are one of our closest allies. And this is a different level than an attack on Ukraine, which is not a NATO member. And also, not as close a relationship as we have with the U.S. And if Iran does decide to respond with a lot of troops, aren't we supposed to go and defend our ally at that point? If they ask for help, how do we refuse? That's going to be really, really difficult. And the other one that I want to throw on the table with this is what happened to the Trump deterrence, the Trump strength, that these type of things don't happen. We heard that going through the last election in the ramp up, that Putin would never.
What kind of deterrence?
Putin never would have invaded. Putin never would have invaded.
Right. I
If
think
Ukraine,
most people think that's right.
But again, that's what I'm asking. So here we have what could be a larger conflict between two sovereign nations inside the Middle East. Where is that deterrence against war? Because the idea was there weren't any wars that were started under Trump's first administration. Look how horrible Biden is, because Biden's so weak that now this conflict is happening and we have these conflicts. It was the idea that the world was a calmer place under Trump. And this seems to go against that narrative.
I think it's different because you have aggressors, what we would consider enemies, taking advantage of the little guys under Biden, so Putin, Ukraine. But in this case, you have our allies, our friends, moving the ball down the field against our enemies now. So it's our enemies that are getting attacked. Yes, it's not peaceful to your point, Bill, but it's different than having our enemies attack our colleagues.
Oh, I understand it's different, but I do feel that it's somewhat of a rationalization because in the run up to the election during the Biden administration, it wasn't there wasn't that qualification. There wasn't that constraint put on it. It was just that the world was always safer and nobody's going to mess with anybody else because Trump is the big guy.
Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's talk our friends L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. It's going to get hot today. 89 degrees, 92 tomorrow, 94 on Father's Day. You better have that AC humming or it's going to be a little painful. Our AC went out. We've done the research for you. We talked to a number of different HVAC companies. We have decided that L&L Heating and Air Conditioning is the best. Went with them. It worked out great. 1-day installation, no stress, personal service from start to finish. They even followed up to make sure everything was perfect. Our home, totally comfortable no matter the weather. L&L Heating and Air Conditioning gave us peace of mind. Here's their deals they got going on right now. Free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. No emergency charges. A $0 trip fee. Price match value guarantee on equipment. Free estimates. Licensed and insured. And a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great. Our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691, 720-851-1691, online at bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called them. That number again, 720-851-1691. We'll continue with phone calls and texts. We're talking Israel and Iran. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines are hot as we're discussing Israel, Iran, and the United States. Would you send your sons and daughters to go defend Israel? Man, we might be here. We might be in Ukraine. Goodness. All right, let's go to Lewis in Aurora. Good morning, Lewis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning.
Good morning, brothers. Listen, troops won't be needed at all. 1, Israel's under God protection. 2, there's so many folks in Iran that hate this satanically driven leadership. What we see on TV, all those crowds cheering, that is a fake, and they only a limited amount. I mean, there's many people in Iran that are turning to Christ, and they don't want this leadership. They hate it. So we don't need troops in Iran. And if Iran, again, like it's been said, if they touch one of our troops, try to hit our bases in that, we don't need troops. We just send our missiles, our jets, you name it. I mean, we got carriers.
I think that's a fair analysis. I think you're right on that.
Is that drawing us into World War III then? That was the claim in
Russia.
Russia.
But who's going to defend them? That's the question. Who's coming to defend the mullahs in Iran right now?
Well,
do you think Russia would? Do you think China would?
What I'm looking at is from the statement from Saudi Arabia. It was their brotherhood. They look at them as brothers. It's not China. It's not Russia. It's the rest of the Middle East.
I would be intrigued to see if that was happening. Go ahead, Luis.
Well, the thing is, Saudi Arabia is not going to step in. They hate Iran. The mullahs over there. Remember, Iran bombed their refinery in that. So Saudi Arabia is not. That's why Trump, the wisdom that God gave Trump in going to the Middle East, speaking with the Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other nations, they don't want a nuclear.
Lewis, I think you're right. I think you're right. We've got to get to a break here, but I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Lewis's line's open, 303-696-1971. All right, guys, let's talk advanced hair restoration. If you're losing it, desire to have it back, well, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution, a simple one-day treatment offering life-changing results. It's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it, and it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Pauls. Modern technology, and best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day, and they guarantee it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation. Give them a call now, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver now 2 years in a row, and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself, 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. We're going to continue this conversation into the 8 o'clock hour. Joshua Sharf, senior fellow with the Independence Institute, and one of our go-to guys on all things Jewish and Israel, is going to join us to give us insight into how he thinks Iran may respond. And is Israel going to go all the way this time? This is a big escalation. 200 fighter planes. Wow, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.